What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Mage. I've put together 4 different specs for you guys and some gearing lists. We're going to do an Arcane DPS build, an Arcane Healing Mage build, which Mage might actually be one of the best healers, a Fire DPS build, and a Frost build. So without further ado, guys, let's dive in. Okay, so here is our Mage, and the first build we're going to go over is an Arcane DPS build. So, for our chest rune, we're going to go with Enlightenment here, simply because this is going to be great for mana regen and dealing a little bit of extra damage. So what Enlightenment does is you deal 10% more damage while you have more than 70% mana, and while below 30% mana, 10% of your mana regeneration continues while casting. So this is going to be really good for Arcane. Arcane is very mana heavy when it comes to DPSing. And then on our legs, we're going to take the Arcane Surge rune. Arcane Surge unleashes all of your remaining mana in a surge of energy focused at the target, dealing 95 to 111 arcane damage, increased by up to 300% based on your mana remaining. Afterward, your normal mana regenerated is activated and increased by 300%. So basically, Arcane Surge and Enlightenment are going to play off of each other. We're going to get a ton of mana regen, getting back up to 75 or even 100% mana, and then blasting with Arcane Surge again. And then, of course, on our hands, we're going to take Arcane Blast. Blast the target with energy, dealing 190 to 221 arcane damage. Each time you cast Arcane Blast, the damage and healing of all other arcane spells is increased by 15%, and the mana cost of Arcane Blast is increased by 175%. Effect stacks up to 4 times and lasts 6 seconds or until other arcane damage or healing spell is cast. So basically, you're going to use Arcane Blast as your normal damaging ability. Instead of like Fireball or Frostbolt, you're going to Arcane Blast and then unleash all of your mana with Arcane Surge. It's going to do a ton of damage, so be ready for that. Okay, so let's move on to our talents. We're going to put 4 points in Improved Arcane Missiles to give us an 80% chance to avoid interruption caused by damage while channeling Arcane Missiles. 5 points in Arcane Focus, reduce the chance that the opponent can resist your arcane spells by 10%. 2 points in Arcane Subtlety, which reduces your target's resistances to all of your spells by 10 and reduces the threat caused by your arcane spells by 40. And then we have 5 points in Arcane Concentration, which gives you a 10% chance to enter a clear casting state after any damage spell hits a target. The clear casting state reduces the mana cost of your next damaging spell by 100%. So obviously we need that for going Arcane DPS. We're going to be blasting through our mana pretty quickly. Now quickly, let's glance over at some gear. We're going to be using maybe our Bright Eye Goggles from Engineering, Spectral Necklace of the Owl. If we can pick one of these up, that would be great. Anything with Intel and Spirit on it for this build will do pretty well, so we're going to kind of do a mixture of Arcane Wrath pieces for some spell damage and Owl pieces for some mana regen and intellect. For our shoulders, we have the Feline Mantle, 10 Intel, 3 Spirit, 2 Agility out of Shadowfang Keep. For our cape, we're going to go with an Arcane Wrath cape. Anything you can get your hands on would be nice here. This is going to give you some spell damage towards arcane damage. Robes of Aragul, really nice piece here for your chest. You can farm this in Shadowfang Keep. 10 Spirit, 9 Intel, 5 Stamina, 3 Agility. So that's going to be really good. That 10 Spirit's really going to help with our mana regeneration. And then for our bracers and staff, we're going to go with Arcane Wrath pieces again. We have durable bracers of Arcane Wrath, but again, anything you can pick up of Arcane Wrath would work in this slot. And same goes for our weapon. We want a little bit of arcane damage. I would say 40 to 60 arcane spell damage would do really well with this spec, and then a mixture of Owl pieces thrown in there for some Intel and Spirit. So on our hands, we got Raincaller Mitts of the Owl for some Intel and Spirit here. The Belt of Aragul, again, another Shadowfang Keep item, which would do really well here. 10 Intellect, 3 Spirit, 2 Agility. Watcher's Leggings of the Owl. Any Owl pieces, again, for your leg slot. Intellect and Spirit is going to be big here. You're going to get more mana. You're going to have more mana regen. And then Spider Silk Boots, obviously, are your best in slot boots. If you become a tailor, you can craft your own. If not, you can buy them on the auction house or have another tailor craft them for you. They're not that hard to get the mats for to craft, so I would suggest going for these boots. You're going to get 7 Spirit, 4 Intellect, 4 Stamina here. And then we have Lore Keeper's Ring, which you're going to acquire by getting honored with Silverwing Sentinels or Warsong Outriders. This is 2 Stamina, 5 Spell Damage, and 2 MP5. Simply cannot pass that up. And then if you are Alliance, you can easily farm the Lavishly Jeweled Ring from Deadmines or even Seal of Rin. I have a feeling people are going to be doing this. And if you're not Alliance, you can pick up an Azora's Will or even just any Ring of the Owl on the auction house if there are any. So that's what I would do there. And then as for trinkets, these trinkets won't increase your DPS at all, so I just put Arena Grandmaster and Goblin Jumper cables. As for a wand, we have Cookie Stirring Wand, but any wand will do. You're going to want to probably go with an Arcane Wand to kind of synergize with your spec a little bit better. So let's move on to the Healing Mage. So as for the Healing Mage, our gear is going to stay relatively exactly the same as our DPS spec, because we're going to be damaging to do healing with arcane damage. So kind of use pretty much the same gear you would use for the Arcane DPS spec. The only difference here is going to be in our talents. So for our chest rune, we're going to take Regeneration, heals the target for 485 over 3 seconds, and applies a temporal beacon for 30 seconds. Records the subject's space-time position. 100% of all arcane damage done by the caster will be converted to chronomantic healing and divided among the caster's current temporal beacon targets. So you're going to want to take Regeneration there. That's going to be more of like a single target heal, and then Mass Regeneration, which is basically a mass heal, basically an AoE heal of all targets within 15 yards with the exact same thing. It's going to place a temporal beacon on each target that gets hit with mass regeneration, and then as you deal arcane damage, it's going to pop and heal them for that. And then on our hand rune here, we are going to also go with Arcane Blast yet again, so that we're constantly doing arcane damage. You also could get Rewind Time, and what this does is your current target with temporal beacon instantly heals all damage taken over the last 5 seconds, ineffective on targets that did not have a temporal beacon. So basically this would be used, like, let's say if you're going for more of a healing spec, like just straight up healing, this would be really good because you can kind of place this on your tank before they're about to take a ton of damage, right? They take all that damage in a few seconds, and then bam, you rewind time, they're back to full health. So that would work there, but I still here would go with Arcane Blast to have a consistent arcane damaging spell. I mean, we are going to be using improved arcane missiles as well, but either way, Arcane Blast or Rewind Time could work in this spot. And then again, the spec is exactly the same as the DPS spec. You're going to put 2 points in Arcane Subtlety, 5 points in Arcane Focused, 4 points in Improved Arcane Missiles, and 5 points in Arcane Concentration. So let's move on to our Fire Mage. So for our Fire Mage, on our chest, we're going to pick up Burnout, but you also could pick up Enlightenment if you're having mana issues, and it might actually be a slight DPS increase if you're not running out of mana to take Enlightenment. But Burnout is what we're going to take here. Increases your spell critical strike chance with all spells by 15%, but your non-periodic spell critical strikes now have an additional mana cost of 1% of your base mana. And then for our Leg Rune, 2 choices here. We could take Living Flame, summons a Spellfire Flame that moves toward the target, leaving a trail of fire. This trail deals 42 Spellfire damage every second to nearby enemies. This would be really good when you're farming packs of mobs, but obviously on single target fights, you might want to swap out to Icy Veins, like when you're fighting bosses and things like that. Hastens your spellcasting, increasing spellcasting speed by 20% and reduces the pushback suffered for damaging attacks while casting by 100%. This is just a massive DPS cooldown. You're going to get a ton of haste from this. So honestly, on boss fights, I would suggest Icy Veins. When you're clearing trash, you can go Living Flame. Living Flame would definitely be better on those like big AoE pulls. You can kind of cast Living Flame and then Flame Strike or Blizzard, whatever you want to do, Arcane Explosion. But Icy Veins will be better for boss fights. As for your hand rune, we're going to go with Living Bomb. Clearly here, this is the winner. The target becomes a Living Bomb, taking 142 fire damage over 12 seconds. After 12 seconds, or when the spell is dispelled, the target explodes, dealing 72 fire damage to all enemies within 10 yards. This is going to be a nice dot to put on bosses for single target, and also while clearing trash, just Living Bomb on everything. Spellfire Flame, Flame Strike, Blizzard, Arcane Explosion. Like your AoE damage is going to be absolutely off the charts, so you want to take Living Bomb here. And then as for our talents, we put 5 points in Improved Fireball, reduces the cast time of your fireball by 0.5 seconds. 5 points in Ignite. Your critical strikes from fire damage spells cause the target to burn for an additional 40% of your spell damage for 4 seconds, and that's going to kind of play with Burnout. You're going to be critting a lot more having Burnout, so Ignite is going to be a lot of your DPS. 2 points in Incinerate, increase the critical strike chance of your Fire Blast and Scorch spells by 4%. 3 points in Improved Flame Strike for increased critical strike chance of Flame Strike by 15%. So 15%, that's 30%. That's going to be pretty big. And then obviously you're going to open with Pyroblast on bosses. You know, when that countdown comes up, you are going to start casting this at the 6-second mark so that it goes off when the timer hits 0, and your damage is going to be really high as Fire Mage. The only thing here is we have no threat reduction in the fire tree at this level, so you may be pulling aggro, so you may need to cool it a little bit, but no pun intended, by the way. But yeah, fire is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to play fire on my mage. And then again, our gear is going to be similar to the arcane sets, except we're going to swap out those arcane wrath pieces for fiery wrath pieces. Again, you want to get to around 40, anywhere between 40 to 60 fire spell damage, and then fill out the other pieces with intel and spirit pieces so that you can kind of, you know, have a good balance of mana, MP5, and spell damage at this level. The Phoenix Pants are a good one to point out. These are really nice for Fire Mage. At this level, you're going to get 4 intellect and 10 fire spell damage, so you could pick those up as well. And then obviously all the other pieces, exactly the same thing as the other specs. So let's move on to our Frost spec. Okay, so for Frost, our chest rune, no brainer here, we're taking Fingers of Frost. Gives your chill effects a 15% chance to grant you Fingers of Frost, which treats your next 2 spell cast as if the target were frozen. So we want to grab Fingers of Frost. Leg rune, we're going to take Icy Veins, of course. Hastens your spellcasting. Again, this is another massive DPS cooldown. We want to grab Icy Veins, and then, yeah, last but not least, how are we not going to take Ice Lance? When you have Fingers of Frost, just blasting Ice Lance, it does a ton of damage. Deals 23 to 27 frost damage to an enemy target, causes triple damage against frozen targets, and that's going to coincide with Fingers of Frost because it treats your effects as if they were frozen when they have a chill effect on them. As for our talents here, we're going to put 5 in Improved Frostbolt, 0.5 seconds taken off the casting time there, and then 3 in Elemental Precision, which basically gives you a 6% hit on your fire and frost spells. And then we're going to go with 5 points in Ice Shards, increase the critical strike damage bonus of your frost spells by 100%. So you're hurling Ice Lances with Fingers of Frost up. They're doing triple damage. If that crits, it's now going to do 100% more critical damage. It's going to be insane. Your damage is going to be off the charts. And then we're going to take Cold Snap, obviously, to reset the cooldown on Icy Veins so we can use it twice. And then 2 points in Piercing Ice to get 4% extra damage on our frost spells. As for our gear, going to be the same thing as the other specs. Really, the trend here at this level is going to be to kind of get a good mixture of spell damage and intel and spirit, so you're not running out of mana and you have a ton of mana. So basically, yeah, we have Icicle Rod as our weapon here, which is a nice staff, pretty easily obtained. 4 intellect. You can get it enchanted with 7 frost damage, and then you can get 10 extra spell damage for frost on this staff, so that's a really good one. And then again, Azure Silk Pants. Nice pants, 6 intel. We're going to get 10 frost spell damage from those as well. And then all the other pieces are pretty much exactly the same. Anything that obviously isn't Frozen Wrath, but was like Arcane Wrath or Fiery Wrath, swap those out for frozen pieces, and you should be good to go. But anyways, guys, yeah, that is how I would play Mage. Those are the 4 specs that I would use. That's some of the gear that I would use. It makes sense. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. It really does help me out a lot. And subscribe to the channel. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. We're going to be covering Season of Discovery all the way through. Every phase, we're going to be putting out tons of content. And it seems like you guys are enjoying it, so I really do appreciate that support. And if you guys want to hang out with me live, I stream on Twitch Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/hammerdance. It's been popping off lately. We've been having a lot of fun in the chat, so if you want to hang out, come on by. We're live again Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to access this build, I've been posting all of my builds for talents and runes and gear sets on the community Discord in the respective class channel. So head on over to the Discord, go to the Mage channel, you'll find this build there. You can kind of mess with it and tweak it to your liking. But anyways, guys, that's all from me. Thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.